to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks.
It's customary at this time that we take a moment of silence as we begin our meeting, and as we take a moment of silence this evening, we'd like you to remember our military folks that are serving to help protect the many freedoms of this great nation that we live in. We'd ask you also to remember our first responders, our police, our firefighters, and those who serve us here in our communities, and protect our rights and protect our well-being. We'd also ask you to remember our city council tonight as they make decisions that the things they do might be in the best interest of the community and those who deal with Riverdale City. We'll now take a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Okay, we now have a period of time for public comment. This is the time that you're welcome to come forward to the microphone, state your name, and if you would, try to limit your time, your comments to about 3 minutes. This is an opportunity for you to address the council with any concerns that or ideas that you might have. So you're welcome to come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations and reports. First, we have the mayor's report. I just have one thing to mention tonight. For those of you who use our trails, this Saturday morning is the third annual Trail Fest that's sponsored by Weber Pathways, actually manages it, but it's sponsored by the Bank of Utah. This is a big trail activity. We have different locations along the trail, and it's the full Centennial Loop that you can go. You get a passport when you check in at one of the stations, and then you go to the other stations and get your passport signed. And then you go down to the Ogden Amphitheater. About midday, you can go there and you draw for prizes and that. So you're welcome to do that. We will have, Riverdale City has the one at Kayak Park again this year, and we usually give prizes out there. It's kind of fun. Blair Jones and I from Planning Commission, we've done it for the last couple of years, and it's kind of a fun morning. So if you get down that way, stop and say hello and enjoy it. It should be a beautiful day. It'd be a good time for that. So I had one other thing, and I was kind of saving it. I mentioned it to some of you, but David Leahy's sitting in the back, and we know David is one of the guys that designed and constructed and had a lot to do with building our Veterans Memorial. He's a retired Air Force Master Sergeant. But I learned, talking to Dave, I was at his home one afternoon, and he started telling me that he used to be a volunteer firefighter for Riverdale City, and what was interesting, he was the fire inspector for Riverdale. He's still got the badge, and he's got everything all framed on his wall, but there's a little history there, and he was actually on active duty in the Air Force while he was doing this Riverdale City just as a volunteer. So, but he used to do all that. I thought it was kind of noteworthy and just a little bit of trivia and history. But we appreciate you, Dave, and all you do. Right now he's working up certificates on that for our sunrise service on 4th of July on Old Glory Day. So he does so much, and he just does it because he likes to and out of the goodness of his heart. So we appreciate you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to city administration report. It's all in your packets. I'm going to turn time to Mr. Wortham, our city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Searle. Council, in your packets is our report for the month of May, department reports. I'll come back to the employee recognition tonight. We have a 5-year on there, so I'm going to come back to that one. Our staffing authorization plan is approximately 2.5 below authorized numbers of FTE. The community development report has a few business updates for you in there. Looking forward to Crumble Cookie opening. Mayor and I stopped by there the other day, and it does say opening in June. I don't know if they're going to hit that target, but they were painting when we were there, so it's getting close. There's some others on that report. I won't go through those for the sake of time. Our finance report is also included, Council, and of course we're looking to adopt the budget for the upcoming fiscal year this evening. As far as our reports that we included in your packet, I just would like to point out the mayor mentioned the police department and the number of calls. And if you graph those calls over the years, it's just a steady projection upward. The number of calls and the things that our police department deals with. Sometimes it's mind-boggling what they have to put up with and deal with, but they do it to serve and to protect our residents and those that come and visit here in Riverdale. I would like to also point out Chris Stone and some of the work that he does for us. Everything from newsletter printing to mailings to the recent surplus property. They sold a lot of items over at the community center here just last week. Was able to accumulate about $550 that goes back into the general fund of the city, so that was nice. And that's a lot of work to put on, to gather the items, display them, advertise them. Of course, receive your approval to move forward with that operation as well. So just like to thank Chris for his work, and he's just a man of many things here in the city, from the newsletter to the website to social media. He'll help us tomorrow in our quarterly training at the community center. If any of you are bored, you're welcome to come to that tomorrow. It starts at 11. Also like to point out Shaylee Evans is with us tonight. She'll be taking the city recorder position. Her first day will be on July, but she's just come tonight to see kind of how things work. Again, as you know, Jackie Manning resigned the position here recently, and we wish her well in what she's doing with her family. She wasn't going to another job, but I guess a family is the most important job, and that's where she's going to be spending her time, and so we wish her well. But like to welcome at the same time Shaylee to the city of Riverdale and the great culture that's here with us. But that's all I have as far as the report goes. If there's any questions that you have, I would like to get into the employee recognition unless you have any questions. No? I know Councilor Stevens is looking forward to Crumble, so.
Yes, especially since I found out you can stay in ketosis by eating there.
I hear they're really good, so we're looking forward to them coming. We're trying to organize a grand opening as well with them, so we'll invite you to that once we know. Council, Mayor, our employee recognition, these are our June 2019 anniversaries. Jeff Woody, who's not here with us tonight, has 27 years of service. He started in our Public Works Department and has advanced his career and his knowledge and experience. He's now our building official, and he works in community development, but that's quite a while, 27 years of service for Jeff Woody. Rich Taylor, who's with us tonight. Hi, Rich. Congratulations on your 5-year mark, and we'll recognize Rich here in a second. Matthew Phillips in our police department has 3 years. It seems like we just hired him. Elise Anger in our community service. Is that how you pronounce that, Rich? Elise? And it's Anger, right? Okay. Didn't want to mispronounce that one. She has 3 years of service working with Rich over in community service. Robert Lovato in our police department, 3 years. I saw him pulling over a vehicle the other day, and he just looks really, really young. But 3 years of service. Zachary Anderson in Community Services works with Rich, has 1 year. Noah Pincombe in our fire department has 1 year. And then Jacob Stanger, our most recent police officer, has 1 year of service with Riverdale Police. So congratulations to them, and appreciate their service and dedication to not only the staff here at Riverdale City, but most importantly, the residents of this community. So that's all, Mayor.
Okay,
And
thanks.
if Rich wants to come up,
Go.
come on up, Rich. We got to recognize your 5-year mark.
Sat down. How are you, Rich?
Good, how you doing?
Seen this guy already today a couple times, so. This is an honor tonight to recognize Rich for 5 years of service. He came to us from, I believe, Farmington. He was at Farmington, but he started with Riverdale City, but he's come back and he's just done a tremendous job. He's the director of our community services. That's the senior center, the community center, all the recreation activities in the city, all the activities, to include the Old Glory Days, our Memorial Day service, our Veterans Day, our Easter egg hunt. And he does so much. And I've had the opportunity this summer with a grandson to see some of the city recreation programs, activities firsthand, and you really do a great job. People that do it, it's just, it's really awesome what Riverdale City offers. So very proud of you and what you do, and I think I'm kidding, don't you? He's got that look on his face. But we appreciate what you do, Rich, and got this certificate for you. There's also a little sum of money there, I think, for
Thanks, Mayor.
your service. You can take your wife to
Roger.
dinner, and but we do appreciate all you do. So, we'll see Roger.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to point out, Rich, he's the lively of our staff meetings. He's always got something that's usually pretty humorous to talk about and discuss, but also important at the same time. Anything you want done, Rich will get there, and it's done. You don't have to worry about it. Just what all our department heads are like that. We work well together. Appreciate all of them, each and every one of them, and we like to recognize them on their 5th year anniversaries. So Rich has 5 years. He was hired just after I got here as well. So we're kind of on the same path, but appreciate him and all that he does for the city. Thanks, Rich.
Okay, we'll move on next to the consent items. Our first consent item this evening is to consider the meeting minutes. These are the meeting minutes from May 11th, which is our strategic planning meeting. Also the June 4th City Council work session, June 4th City Council regular session. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to the second consent item. Consideration to set a public hearing for August 20th, 2019 to receive and consider public comments, in accordance with Utah Code 10-5-17 and 10-6-135 regarding the non-reciprocal interfund activity transfer of resources utilized by the general fund and provided by the water fund. Is there any question on those consent items? Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
Motion to approve consent items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Any opposed? Unanimous in favor. Move on to the action items. Action item number 1, consideration of ordinance 909 to approve a rezone request for properties located at approximately 690 West, 4400 South. This is a zoning change from single family and single family with rental unit residential R2 to multiple family residential R5. This is requested by Daniel Phelps. Mr. Wortham.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Mike Agat's not with us tonight. I'd like to excuse him. He's attending some training back in Emmitsburg under the National Floodplain Insurance Program, so he's not with us this evening. That being said, he has put forth to you tonight, Council, a petition of a rezone. This property is approximately 0.36 acres. It's located on the corner there at 4400 South, 700 West, actually 690 West, which is right there at that circle. Proposed rezone is from currently R2, as the mayor mentioned, up to a multifamily residential of R5 for the possibility of a future development of an independent living residential structure. Obviously, those types of things help our housing inventory. Having housing in our community that fits broad ranges of ages or work environments and, workforce housing all the way up to, almost where we pass away in assisted living and care centers. I don't know if Mr. Phelps is here. I've never met Mr. Phelps. He's here tonight. He's been working with Mike Agat on this project. If you have any particular questions to him, as you know, the Planning Commission recommended this favorably to the City Council. Their meeting was on May 28th of this year. If there's any discussions or questions of Mr. Phelps.
Mr. Ellis.
I know there's been some discussion about possible, now that we're rezoning all those pieces of property that you own together, do you have any future plans or some idea of what you want to do over there?
Yes, the plan is, and we're working on it right now, a site plan which will come before this body as well as the Planning Commission to build independent apartments, as the city administrator said. Think the Riverdale Senior Center and the apartments that are attached there too. So the people that would live here, I own Stony Brook, and so the people that would live here would be people prior to needing that much assistance, but wanting to get out of their home, downsize, just like what you see in the Riverdale Senior Center. Most of you probably know, and sounds like Rich being in charge of that project is tremendously beneficial. Last time I talked to, I think it's Chris that manages that facility, they have a waiting list of over 200 people that are trying to get in there. The lady that was the receptionist when I walked in that day, I asked her if they still had a 2-year waiting list, and she said, "Oh no, I've been on it for 5 years." And so it's for the purpose of independent living and handicap folks. For example, people that maybe work at Enable Industries that are able to live independently on their own, and that's what I intend to build there.
Any idea of how many units you're looking at?
It depends on really what'll be the governing factor there is the ability to park vehicles, since they do have independent status. Some of them will have cars, unlike in Stony Brook. We've only had one resident in 6 years that had a car, and he recently had to give it up. So the only need we had was for employees and visitors. And so, but here we will have availability for parking so that they will be able to bring cars, a car probably. There'll be small apartments, basically exactly what you see at the Riverdale Senior Center, probably looking somewhere between 30 and 35 units. It depends. Obviously, we've got to meet all the setback requirements and parking and landscaping and all those kind of things.
Also, I know there's an idea that was being floated about cross-access, that people would, in the apartments, would go through the parking lot where the care center is at.
Right. What we're going to try to do is the original design idea that an architect gave me was for a second entrance. We're going to actually try to combine the entrance so that there's only one entrance to a parking lot, for safety, so that you don't get especially that close to the corner. We'd like to eliminate as much as possible the access to the roadway, because you get too many cars coming out in too small of an area. It's a safety issue for
Sure.
road. Probably what we'll look at is splitting a parking lot so that instead of having one big parking lot on the corner, there'll be a smaller one on the corner and another one on the east end where you'd go into the trailer park. And so, but we'll limit the parking access instead of trying to get everything we possibly can to make
Okay.
it safer.
Be interesting to see your site plan. That's a good idea.
Appreciate that. The other reason, just for interest's sake, that we find, and we've got a situation like this right now, is sometimes when a couple comes to live at Stony Brook, typically when two people come, one needs you and one doesn't, but they don't want to be separated, so they both end up coming there. This gives them the ability to have the one who needs the assistance there. The one who doesn't can still live close and live in the independent living side, and it saves a significant amount of money for them as well. And so that's part of the purpose. And then the two facilities actually work together. Some of the folks that we serve in the independent community like that are on Medicaid, and where we also provide their meals, and those meals will be provided from Stony Brook. So, as well as activities and housekeeping and so forth that the CNAs at Stony Brook will be able to come over and help with. It will be tied to Stony Brook with a call system, so that if somebody has an emergency, falls or something like that, they'll be able to push a button to the staff at Stony Brook to come over and help. But it's for people that still can shower on their own, get dressed, and have a job if they want, or basically exactly what you see in the Riverdale Senior Center.
Okay, so it's more of assisted living than apartments.
They refer to it as independent living because unlike at Stony Brook, when we're staffed 24 hours a day, these apartments are not. They'll be able to call on the staff there in an emergency, but once somebody moves to that level where they need medication management and so forth, then they would move next door into Stony Brook.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell.
I have two questions. So to get that many units, are you planning on building like a two-story?
We're looking at two-story right now, but we can't really go any higher because the building can't be big enough really to justify an elevator, and we have to be able to provide all the services on the main floor that you do on the second floor for ADA.
Okay. And is this rezone, like it's just for one of the lots, and then the other two are already zoned correctly? So
The reason that these have to be rezoned, there's actually 5 tax ID parcels there, which we will be combining into one big parcel. But the two on the corner, which is the piece from the fence to the road, which is just the sliver, and then where that one house was on the corner, it actually has a spot zoning issue that the city didn't deal with it years ago. It's what's zoned for single family house. The other 3 parcels were already zoned R5, as well as Stony Brook is R5. It just creates one common zone for all the pieces, but that's why we're just cleaning up that zoning issue.
And then I assume you have a plan to somehow get Dathan Polson's trailer off of there. Or are you just going to build around it, or
He finds that as a very convenient place to trade off when people come and borrow it. And when his grandmother lived there, I gave him permission to use that pad. And when she passed away a couple of years ago, he thought it was a convenient place to continue to park it. I keep telling him I had a dump trailer on there when we tore those houses down, and it was stolen one night. And the fantastic police department actually found it 6 months later, and I got it back. So but probably nobody's going to steal his. It's got his face all over it, so it'd be pretty easy to find.
Mr. Arnold.
Move to approve ordinance 909 as stated within the packet.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Mr. Worthen, would you poll the council, please, on the ordinance?
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember Ellis.
Aye.
Unanimous in favor, thank you. Move on to action item number 2. This is consideration of the final site plan approval of proposed Riverdale retail/restaurant building property located approximately 4104 Riverdale Road. This is requested by the DRH Company and AWA Engineering Group. This is the property formerly occupied by the Chevron station there on the corner there. Mr. Worden, do you have any comments on this?
Thank you, Mayor Searle. This is a site plan request approval tonight, Council. This is a parcel that sits on the corner there at 300 West on Riverdale Road, excuse me. I almost said 4400 South again, excuse me. This is the site where, as the mayor mentioned, has a Chevron station on it. The site is proposed for redevelopment of a commercial pads for, I'm assuming Eric's here tonight, Eric Malmer, representing AWA Engineering, for restaurants and those types of uses, retail pads that would be positioned on that corner. The site plan is before you. It did receive favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission at their last meeting on June 11th and is before you tonight for your approval and consideration, Council.
Do you have any questions, or Mr. Malmberg? Mr. Ellis?
Good evening.
I noticed on your site plan that you have cross-access with John Paris, the furniture company that's right there, that they can pull in off of Riverdale Road, drive through an access to the property, and then go around, through the drive-through. How wide is that access going to be? Is that going to take out some of the parking places in John Paris where people are going to have to turn into it?
Currently, it's not going to be removing any of the parking stalls along the current access. The width on that is, I believe...
Is it going to be enough for 2 cars is what I'm concerned.
Are you speaking of the access off of Riverdale Road onto John Paris Furniture?
You go on John Paris, and then there's a little driveway that goes onto the other property, the
Yes.
property that we're in question.
I show it, I don't have a dimension on my plan right here, right now, but it is much, I believe it, I want to say it's 36 feet wide.
Okay, so it's fairly enough for 2 cars.
Yes, yeah. The minimum that we design up to is a 26-foot width. This one's an extra, I'd say, 10 feet wider than what we usually design to.
Okay, and there's a grade between the 2 properties.
That's correct.
John Paris is lower than the property that we're looking at.
That's correct,
How
yes.
are you going to handle the grade? Is that going to be fairly steep? Is it going to be a gradual grade? Is it going to go into your property? Is it going into Paris, or is it going to go on both?
So currently the grade break is separated by a small concrete retaining wall.
Right.
I think the maximum size of that, or the height of that retaining wall, is about 2 feet, 2.5 feet. So we were going to continue that wall along that property line. The wall is actually on the Hanson property, the DRH Hanson property. We were going to continue that wall along that property line, and it would be 3 feet or smaller. The maximum height on it, I guess, would be 3 feet tall.
Okay.
So that would be the grade separation, the grade break between the 2 properties.
So is it going to extend onto Dee's property, or is it going to extend onto who gets the grade?
That would be on Dee's property.
Okay.
Yeah. The existing parking stalls on John Paris Furniture, those existing stalls are going to remain in place, and they're on the north side of his property. So those existing parking stalls are all going to remain.
Okay. So when they come in, they'll be going around the Starbucks or whoever's there, And then if they want to exit back onto Riverdale Road and not worry about it, they can take that grade and go back onto Riverdale Road, right?
That's correct. Yeah, they would just go back on the John Paris Furniture property, and they could make a right-hand turn out there onto Riverdale Road.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions, Mr. Arnold?
Move to approve final site plan approved for proposed Riverdale retail restaurant building property located approximately 4104 Riverdale Road in Riverdale, requested by the DRH Company and AWA Engineering Group.
Second?
Have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous in favor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Malmberg, being here. Move on to item 3. This is a public hearing and then consideration of ordinance 910, which are amendments to the Riverdale City Code Human Resources Manual. This is referred to in 1-7-1, 1-7-2. This is salaries of city council and mayor, and 1-7F-6, salary of the justice court judge. Mr. Worthen, have any comments before we do the public hearing?
No, Mayor, this is required simply by our code that every year as part of our budgetary process, we present these salaries and wages to the council for their consideration.
Okay, thank you. Move on to, first we'll do our public hearing. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now open. We invite you to come forward to the microphone. If you'd state your name and please limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Seeing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The public hearing is closed. Move on to item 3B, consideration of ordinance 910. These are the amendments to the Riverdale City Code Human Resources Manual. The reference is previously stated. Salaries of the city council and mayor, and 1-7F-6, salary of the justice court judge. Do you have anything? You've already given your comments, didn't you, on the for the public hearing. Do we have any questions or comments on this? Mr. Hanson?
Could we just do one large rage that only lasts for 6 months and then goes away? Like double it, or is that an option?
Either that or automatic forfeit.
Just teasing.
I know you are. So was I, so. Yeah. Mr. Arnold?
Move to approve ordinance 910 as stated within the packet.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on this motion? Mr. Worthen, would you poll the council on the ordinance, please?
Councilmember Arnold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Nay.
Councilmember Ellis.
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Aye.
Okay, and one opposed. Motion passes, motion carries. Move on to item 4A. First, it's a public hearing to receive and consider comments regarding the proposed amendments to the Riverdale City budget for fiscal year 2018 through 2019. And then we'll have consideration of resolution 2019-13, and this is the same proposed amendments. Mr. Carden, do you have any comments before we open the public hearing?
Thank you, Mayor. Those amendments are just identified on page 119 through 123 of the PDF packet.
Okay, we need a motion then to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous in favor. The public hearing is now open. Again, state your name at the microphone and keep your comments to 3 minutes if you would. Time is yours. Seeing none, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the consideration of Resolution 2019-13. This is the proposed amendments to the city budget for FY 2018-2019. Is there any comments or discussion on this? We have a motion. Mr. Arnold.
Move to approve Resolution 2019-13, proposed amendments to the Riverdale City budget for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Worthen, will you poll the council on the resolution, please?
Sorry, I'm writing motions and seconds here. Councilmember Hanson.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellis.
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold.
It's unanimous in favor. Thank you. Move on next to, consideration of resolution, 2019-14. This is adoption of the certified tax rate for FY 2019-2020 as established by Weber County. Mr. Carden.
So in the packet on page 127 is the Form PT 693, and it's just a requirement of state law by June 22nd that we adopt whatever the property tax rate is. So we propose that you adopt the certified tax rate as established, which is 0.000972 as calculated by Weber County.
Thank you, Mr. Carden. Do we have any comments, or Mr. Hanson?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2019-14 and adopt the certified tax rate for fiscal year 1920 as established by the county.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Worthen, will you poll the council, please, on this resolution?
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellis.
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson.
Aye.
Unanimous in favor. You didn't know the city recorder was such a busy job, did you?
I'm writing like crazy here.
They do shorthand. Quit. Just circle for motions, underline
You
for
ought to
second.
see what he's got going over here, Shayla. You're going to have
No, don't let her see this.
to apply for all this.
She won't
Don't
come
ever
back.
do what he's doing.
I just hope you come back.
My notes are great, Councilmember Mitchell.
They're big.
A lot of
They're-
ink
they're
over
very
here.
big. Need another pen.
Okay, let's move on to item 6. This is a public hearing to receive and consider comments regarding adoption of the final Riverdale City budget for FY 2019 through 2020. And then consideration of Resolution 2019-15, adoption of the final Riverdale City budget. Mr. Carden.
Thank you, Mayor. So on page 132 of the packet are all the changes that have occurred since the adoption of the tentative budget and the corresponding strategic planning meeting where we discussed those.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? We have a motion then on Resolution 2019.
We need to do the public hearing.
Public hearing.
I didn't open the public hearing, did I? Okay. Need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now open. Again, if you would, please come forward and state your name and limit your time to 3 minutes, if you would. Seeing none, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Worthen, will you poll the council now on Resolution 2019-50?
We gotta wait,
The hearing, closing the hearing.
Okay,
You just did.
Aye.
but we gotta approve it. Make a
It
motion.
was just me. Aye.
Second.
I got that.
favor?
Aye.
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 I wonder your notes are all
What are
screwed
you
up.
lying about?
Dude, Jackie was like the canoe
she's really-
outrigger thing, man.
She was really good, so. Okay, any discussion or comments on, as we consider the resolution? Mr. Arnold,
Move to approve Resolution 2019-15, adoption of the final Riverdale City budget for fiscal year 2019 and 2020.
Second.
we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Worthen, will you poll the council on this resolution, please?
Councilmember Ellis,
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
It's unanimous in favor. Thank you. Move on to, excuse me, action item 7, consideration of resolution 2019-16. This is adopting an interlocal fire service agreement between Riverdale City and South Ogden City. Fire Chief Jared Shawley.
Nothing's changed with the agreement. So,
Any questions from Chief?
I think Jared needs to be commended for all the work you've done in making this happen. Without you, I'm sure we'd still be back to square one. So appreciate all the time and effort that you put into making this a positive experience for both cities.
thanks for the support. We were planning on monthly meetings with leadership from both departments to stay on top of it. So, first one planned July 1st.
I
if
mean,
this
we have
goes
another
through.
meeting.
Not with you guys.
Oh,
You can come.
We're
if you
done
want.
meeting with you guys for a while.
Really?
I think we should table this.
Any other comments? Mr. Hanson? do you
I want to
have a
thank
motion?
me for encouraging you to come up with a
I want to thank you as well.
plan.
Yeah.
But nice job. I want to make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-16 for adopting an interlocal fire service agreement between Riverdale and South Ogden.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on this motion? Mr. Worthen, will you poll the council again on the resolution?
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember Ellis.
Aye.
Unanimous in favor. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. It's a big accomplishment. I'm sure you're pleased tonight to have the full support of the council. That was a long and arduous task to get that done. It's going to be really good too, so,
4 Santas.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're coordinated now.
Okay, move on to action item number 8. This is consideration of Resolution 2019-17. This is adopting amendment to the Riverdale City Personnel Policies and Procedures Handbook. Our city attorney, Mr. Steve Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. This comes about as a result of House Bill 163, where the state changed some definitions. And it basically says that unless the council says that employees can use city property, that if it's ever used, that it can result in second, third degree felonies. We have a lot of examples of property around the city that people use. The way we wrote this up, that it says that unless it's, costs the city something, then we're not going to worry about it, like paper clips, things like that we won't worry about. But if it does cost the city something, then they have to be reimbursed by the employee. So it's kind of generic, it's somewhat general, but we couldn't really zero in on any specific piece of property. We just tried to make it as much as we can to give the employees some protection. So as long as you guys have passed something by July 1, then we won't be facing felonies we could have a lot of felonies floating around here. They could get really ugly fast. So that's the purpose of it.
Mr. Ellis.
Do you know why that bill came about? Why it became such?
I actually did hear a story on that. Apparently, it was a result of a sheriff's department down southern Utah, or it might have been search and rescue or something like that. And they regularly take out their four-wheelers and different things to make sure they're running and testing and stuff like that. And they let the employees take those sometimes on the weekends. Somebody saw somebody out there on a county vehicle, didn't like it, complained about it, and that resulted in the bill. So, because apparently it wasn't in a policy form and the council hadn't approved it and signed off on it, so that's how it come about.
Because it's really a bad law. I'm surprised
It's
went
really
through
bad.
and people didn't challenge it when it was.
I could see this
above.
changing maybe next year after they see how big of a pain this is, but I mean, we don't have many problems. We have a lot of safeguards around the city. It has brought to our attention a couple of little things that we haven't addressed before. So in that sense, it's good. But we've never really had problems with these kind of things. But just to protect the employees, make sure we don't get anybody in trouble, that's what we're doing it for.
Right. Yeah. Training is important on this.
Yeah, we'll do that as well.
So as everybody is seeing this for the first time, I take it there's going to be some talk to maybe refine it, and I see this as pretty dynamic,
right?
Because it is so general,
right?
And so we'll probably see this again as it becomes amended.
I wouldn't be surprised. At some point in time, we'll tweak this, or the law will go away, and then it won't be an issue again. We'll be back to where we were, but there's really no way to zero in on this. And I borrowed this from the county. Brent actually got a copy of what they use for mosquito abatement, kind of tweaked it to fit more our needs. And they did the same thing. They're kind of, wringing their hands out like, we can't address every property piece that we have in the city. That would be impossible. So we kind of have to write it this way, at least initially, and we'll see how it pans out. But I would anticipate at some point in time we'll tweak this.
Good job.
Thank you. Thanks to you.
Councilor Hanson.
I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-17, adopting an amendment to the Riverdale City Personnel Policies and Procedures Handbook.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Arnold?
This means Rich has to bring his bow and arrow back.
Oh.
He was Robin Hood for Halloween last year.
I was in the community center.
Oh.
You're good.
On the clock.
All right, never mind. Withdraw my statement.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Worthing, will you poll the council on this resolution, please?
Councilmember Arnold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellis.
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Aye.
Unanimous in favor, thank you. Do we have any discretionary items for this meeting?
Real quick, I forgot to ask after the Rogers report, how'd the TEC meeting go?
It went well. We wanted to get some more information to them on the Rocky Mountain power estimate for that project up there, and I met with them last Friday, actually, Thursday or Friday, on site. Budget is in alignment with the estimated cost. Depending on how the lines are either relocated and or buried or a combination, and the route that they would be relocated. That was one of the questions the tech committee wanted answered. And so we have another meeting that we have yet to set for them. We're going to meet with the school district and discuss their input on that tech meeting discussion, as well as the 700 West CDA area. And we meet with them on the 10th of July.
All right.
So it's favorable.
Okay, anything else? Have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just watching.
See ya.
Thanks for being here. We got an RDA meeting now for some.
Who was the motion and second on that? Ray? Okay.
Got to be quick.
I know, I'm slow.
How come a sergeant at arms gets to leave when we
See if
have
you-
RDA going?
See if you can get us out of here by 7, Alan.
Hey, man. We wouldn't have an open comment.
Okay,
Public
I
comment.
hear a challenge coming.
You got that, Cody? Okay.
Motion to approve the entire agenda.
I'd like
Motion to adjourn.
I'd like to read all of the budget items line by line.
Seeing none.
Yeah, let's go through it line by line just to make sure that we're okay.
You're good, Mayor.
Cody's got a sore throat.
I would like to welcome you to our RDA meeting this evening, June 18th, 2019. For the record, all board members are present, as are members of the city staff. We have Mr. Cody Carden, we have Mr. Brooks, and we have Mr. Worthen, we have Shaylee Evans with us tonight, who will be our new city recorder, so in the near future. So looking forward to that, Shaylee. Okay, we have a period for public comment. Seeing none, I think we'll move on to the next item. Don't have to do that, do I, Steve, if there's nobody here? I think we've ever had total. Okay, move on to the consent items. Consideration to approve the meeting minutes from April 16th, 2019, the RDA meeting, and also the meeting on June 4th, 2019. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? Do we have a motion to approve the?
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous in favor. Move on to the action items. Only one action item tonight, and it has both public hearing and then consideration to approve resolution R 2019-02, adoption of the final RDA budget for fiscal year 2019 and through 2020. Need a motion to open the public hearing on this.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now open. Seeing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing's now closed. Move on to item 1B, consideration to approve the resolution R 2019-02. This is adoption of the final RDA budget for FY 2019-2020. Any comments or discussion on this, Mr. Arnold?
Move to approve resolution R 2019-02, adoption of the final RDA budget for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Worthen, would you poll the council on the resolution, please?
Last time for this.
Yep.
Councilmember Hanson.
Mr.
Board member.
Oh, excuse me.
RDA board.
Aye.
RDA Board Member Hanson.
Aye.
Board Member Stevens.
Aye.
Board Member Ellis.
Aye.
Board Member Mitchell.
Aye.
And Board Member Arnold.
Aye.
It's unanimous in favor. The resolution passes. Move on to discretionary items for the RDA meeting. Seeing none,
Yeah,
do we?
oh
my gosh. Too late.
Kidding me?
7 o'clock, so I'm going to make it now.
Go ahead.
He threw down the challenge.
My anniversary.
Of what?
Oh, wow.
Wedding.
Okay, Dan, when we were down at in St. George, the Zions Bank people, the woman who gave the presentation on the fire.
Susan Becker.
Yes, thank you. She approached me, and she was saying, "Would you, consider?" And again, I'm just like to hear your analysis, and go take your time to go into depth if you need to. I'm good. And I know we use
Lewis Young.
Who? Ernst.
LYRB, Lewis Young Roberts.
Lewis Young, right? And she felt, and this isn't her words, but she felt a little slighted that they weren't getting, some of the work that the city puts out. And I know this was presented when we were doing the budget thing by Ernst Young. Do we have a contract with them, or is it just a year to year, or how is, because we've seen them quite a bit, and what's the criteria for using, because I like the presentation of the way it's presented, and maybe it's Cody, or maybe it's that group, but do we have a contract with them to do that year to year, or is that a renewed?
Is this, yeah, is this if this isn't an RDA, we can't talk about it.
I think it's the RDA report.
I didn't hear what you just said. You talked to some lady. I didn't know what it was about or not.
Okay, let me just ask you this. Who chooses the RDA to have this done?
I do. And historically what we do is we look at
do we do that in-house?
No, the report goes out of house. It's set as a professional service.
Okay.
It's required by state code to have that report, and it's required to be submitted prior to December 1st of each year.
Right.
It typically costs us anywhere from, I've seen them as low as $1,800 to about $2,000, $2,200 max. It's part of a professional services. It's required, as I said, by state. But what we do is we select Lewis and Young historically since, before my time. I know the first report I saw has been 2012, I think, by Lewis Young. The reason we do that is they have our information. They have it all in their computers. They know our RDAs. They know the boundaries. They know the plans. They know all of the informations and the planned budgets. In order to go back out, now if Zions would honor that pricing, they perhaps would. We would probably consider them. I don't know if they can honor that pricing for the work that they would have to do relative to having Lewis and Young do it. The reason we go with Lewis and Young is they already have our data.
But the board does not.
No, we don't.
We don't get involved in selecting.
We set an amount in the budget for professional services, and we go out and secure that report.
We had an item that was approve Lewis and Young to do the report. To approve the money to give them, so we knew they were going to do it and approve the money.
Yeah, we bring the report back to you.
Right.
Right, and he's presented.
So in a way, we approve them doing it, because they're telling us we're paying Lewis and Young to do the report.
Or fiat.
Yeah, and we say okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but so a new year, it's just a.
We could certainly throw it out, an RFP. That's no big deal.
I'm just curious as to, since it was kind of put in my ear.
Oh.
And so I'm thinking, okay, so how is it done, and do we competitively bid it from time to time?
We can, but the significance of the amount of money that's being expended is
minimal.
Is small. Okay. But the benefit we get by going with Lewis and Young is they have all of our information. They have all that data. Not saying that Zions can't give it, but they're going to come to us and say, what's this, what's that? We feel more comfortable, I guess, with Lewis and Young doing it because they already have the data in the previous year's report, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discretionary?
Oh, I have lots, but I will take it on a personal basis.
Isn't a swim night?
That makes Mr. Arnold really happy. Did you know that? Do you have nothing else?
At this time.
At this time.
Oh, he's got some.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.